She won't say it out loud, but your nervous system already knows. Because when a woman wants to give herself to you, the air between you changes, and you feel it before you understand it. Listen carefully. Most men are trained to look for loud signs: flirtation, seduction, physical touch. That's why they miss the most powerful signal of all. When a woman wants to truly give herself to you, emotionally and mentally, she doesn't move toward you with noise. She moves toward you with safety. The first hidden sign is this: her guard dissolves without you asking for it. Not in a dramatic confession, not in tears, but in moments that seem almost accidental. She stops performing. Her voice softens. Her reactions slow down around you. She doesn't feel the need to impress, entertain, or defend. Around you, she exhales. This isn't weakness. This is trust. And trust is the rarest currency in female psychology. Pay attention to how she behaves when nothing is happening. When there's silence, when the conversation pauses. If she stays present instead of filling the space. If she doesn't rush to grab her phone. If she lets the quiet sit between you without anxiety. That's not boredom. That's comfort. That's her nervous system telling her, I'm safe here. Most men unknowingly destroy this moment by trying to escalate it. They mistake safety for an invitation to push. They lean in too fast, say too much, demand clarity. And just like that, the spell breaks. A woman who wants to give herself to you is not looking for pressure. She's looking for permission. Permission to relax into you without fear of being consumed, controlled, or rushed. Here's something most men were never taught. When a woman trusts you, she begins to reveal parts of herself she hides from the world. Not her achievements, not her highlights, but her contradictions, her doubts, the thoughts she edits out when she's around everyone else. She might say things like, I don't usually tell people this, or this might sound stupid, but those aren't throwaway lines. Those are doorways. And if you respond with judgment, fixing, or superiority, she closes them forever. But if you listen without interrupting, if you don't rush to solve, if you simply hold the space, something profound happens. She starts associating you with emotional relief, with peace, with grounding. At that point, attraction is no longer about chemistry. It becomes attachment. Another layer of this sign is how she reacts to your imperfections. When a woman is only mildly interested, she watches for mistakes. When she wants to give herself to you, she absorbs them. She doesn't flinch when you show uncertainty. She doesn't punish you for vulnerability. She doesn't weaponize your honesty later. Instead, she leans in closer. Why? Because your openness gives her permission to be human too. This is where men get confused. They think strength means emotional distance. But emotional mastery is different. Emotional mastery means being grounded enough to let someone see you without collapsing, without begging, without needing reassurance. A woman doesn't give herself to a man because he's flawless. She gives herself because he's stable, and stability doesn't shout. It radiates. If you've ever noticed a woman becoming calmer around you over time, laughing softer, speaking slower, trusting silence, understand this: she's not losing interest, she's losing fear. And fear is the last thing standing between curiosity and surrender. Most men never see this sign because they're too busy trying to be chosen. But the man who understands this becomes the one she chooses without realizing she already has. The second hidden sign is subtle, and that's why it's dangerous for men who don't understand female psychology. She starts to let you influence her decisions, not because you asked, but because she wants to. This is not obedience. This is alignment. When a woman wants to give herself to you, she begins to factor you into her inner world, not just her schedule, but her thinking. She might casually ask, "What do you think?" about things that don't technically concern you: her clothing, her career moves, how she handles a conflict, even what she orders at a restaurant. Most men hear that and think it's about control. It's not. It's about respect. A woman only opens her decision-making space to a man she sees as grounded, competent, and emotionally safe. If she didn't value your perspective, she wouldn't invite it in. Women are constantly filtering advice. They don't lack opinions around them. What they lack is clarity. And when she sees clarity in you, she leans toward it. Here's where men often fail. They mistake this sign as an opportunity to dominate. They become rigid. They give commands instead of guidance. And the moment she feels her autonomy shrinking, her desire collapses. Influence must feel optional to her. If she senses that she can walk away from your opinion without punishment, and you remain calm, centered, unchanged, something powerful happens. Her trust deepens, because now she knows your masculinity isn't fragile. Another expression of this sign is how she adjusts her rhythm to yours. Her communication starts to mirror your pace. If you're calm, she calms. If you take space, she doesn't panic. She respects it. She stops chasing validation because she feels emotionally anchored. That's not indifference. That's security. You see, a woman gives herself to a man when she believes he can hold her, not physically, but psychologically. When she senses that her emotions won't overwhelm you, that her uncertainty won't scare you, that her intensity won't push you away. Watch closely how she handles disagreement with you. This reveals everything. If she wants to give herself to you, she doesn't try to win arguments. She tries to be understood. Her tone softens even when she disagrees. She explains instead of attacking. She stays present instead of shutting down or exploding. Why? Because she's invested in the connection, not her ego. And here's the part most men miss. She begins to test your emotional spine, not with manipulation, but with contrast. She may pull back slightly. She may challenge a belief you hold. She may express a fear or insecurity and watch how you respond. Not to trap you, but to measure you. Is he reactive or grounded? Does he get defensive or curious? Does he collapse or remain himself? If you fail these tests, she doesn't punish you. She simply stops opening. But if you pass, by staying calm, honest, and self-contained, her attraction shifts from interest to devotion. Another quiet indicator is how she talks about you when you're not there. If she references you in conversations with others. If she says things like, he would say, or he thinks. Understand this. You've entered her internal dialogue. That's not flirting. That's bonding. A woman who wants to give herself to you begins to carry you with her. Your presence lingers even in your absence. Your values echo when she's making choices alone. This is where attachment forms, not through intensity, but through consistency. And consistency doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from being centered enough to stay the same, no matter what she feels that day. Men who understand this don't chase closeness. They allow it. And that's why women move toward them willingly, without force, without fear, without regret. The third hidden sign is one most men misread completely. She becomes emotionally generous with you, not in dramatic displays, not in constant reassurance, but in the way she gives without keeping score. When a woman wants to give herself to you, she stops protecting her emotional energy around you. She invests it. She remembers small details you never thought mattered. The way you take your coffee, a story you told weeks ago, a fear you mentioned once and never repeated. This isn't coincidence. This is attention. A woman's attention is her most valuable resource. She can't fake where it goes for long. When she begins to emotionally prioritize you, you'll feel it in how she shows up, consistently, quietly, without announcement. She checks in on you without a reason, not to control you, not to monitor you, but because you crossed into her concern. Your mood matters to her. Your silence doesn't go unnoticed. Your wins feel personal to her. Here's the difference most men fail to understand. This kind of care isn't maternal, it's intimate. A woman does not emotionally nurture a man she feels indifferent toward. She does it for a man she feels connected to, one she imagines a future emotional bond with, even if she hasn't admitted it yet. Another layer of this sign is how she reacts when you're not at your best. If she wants to give herself to you, she doesn't disappear when you're struggling. She doesn't shame you for stress or fatigue. She doesn't weaponize your low moments. Instead, she becomes steady. She listens more. She pushes less. That doesn't mean she tolerates chaos or disrespect. It means she sees your humanity and doesn't panic. And this is crucial. She does not try to fix you unless you ask. She supports without controlling. She offers presence instead of solutions. That's emotional maturity, and it only shows up when she feels safe with you. Pay attention to how she handles your boundaries. A woman who wants to give herself to you respects them instinctively. If you need space, she doesn't guilt you. If you say no, she doesn't punish you. If you're unavailable, she doesn't test you with jealousy games. Instead, she adapts. Why? Because she's not trying to extract validation from you. She's trying to build something with you. Here's a truth most men never hear. When a woman feels emotionally bonded, her nervous system syncs with yours. Your emotional state influences hers. If you're calm, she feels calmer. If you're grounded, she feels safer. That's why emotionally chaotic men repel emotionally generous women. Another quiet sign is her willingness to be patient with you. Not indefinitely, but intentionally. She doesn't rush you into defining things. She doesn't force emotional milestones. She allows the connection to unfold naturally because she trusts the direction. This patience is not passive, it's confident. She's not waiting because she has no options. She's waiting because she's chosen where to invest. And here's where men sabotage everything. They begin to doubt their worth. They ask for reassurance. They question her interest. They seek verbal confirmation instead of trusting the emotional evidence. The moment a man asks a woman to prove what she's already giving, the dynamic shifts. She starts to feel inspected instead of connected. A woman gives herself when she feels free, not evaluated. If you notice her offering emotional warmth without demands, consistency without pressure, care without expectation, understand this. She's not just interested in you, she's opening herself. And opening is the step before surrender. But surrender only happens when the man receiving it doesn't try to grab it. Let her give at her pace. Match her with presence, not anxiety. Because when a woman feels that her emotional generosity is met with strength instead of need, she doesn't pull back. She moves closer, all the way. The fourth hidden sign is one most men overlook because it doesn't look romantic on the surface. She starts revealing her inner conflicts, not just her dreams. When a woman wants to give herself to you, she doesn't only show you the parts of her that shine. She lets you see the parts that confuse her, the contradictions, the moments where she doesn't fully understand herself. She might say things like, "I don't know why I feel this way," or "Part of me wants this, but another part is scared." That is not emotional dumping. That is vulnerability with intention. A woman does not expose her internal tension to a man she sees as temporary. She does it with a man she believes can hold complexity without judgment. This is where immature men panic. They hear uncertainty and try to simplify it. They rush to reassure. They minimize. They say things like, "You're overthinking," or "It's not that deep." And in doing so, they tell her one thing very clearly: you're alone with this. A woman gives herself to a man who can sit with ambiguity, who doesn't rush her clarity, who doesn't need her to be emotionally neat in order to stay present. Another expression of this sign is how she talks about her past. Not the surface-level stories everyone hears, but the emotional meaning behind them, how certain experiences shaped her, where she learned to guard herself, what disappointed her, what broke her trust. She's not looking for pity, she's looking for understanding. If she wanted sympathy, she'd talk to anyone. If she wanted validation, she'd talk to many. But when she wants to give herself, she talks to you. And notice this carefully. She doesn't frame herself as a victim. She reflects, she takes responsibility, she shows awareness of her patterns. That's not accidental, that's her signaling emotional readiness. A woman doesn't open this door unless she believes you're capable of meeting her with emotional strength instead of emotional hunger. There's another layer most men never catch. She begins to let you see her when she's undecided, before she's figured things out, not after, before. That is trust in real time. Most people only share conclusions. A woman who wants to give herself shares the process. She lets you witness her thinking, her doubt, her growth, while it's still unfolding. Why does this matter? Because it means she's not trying to curate herself for you anymore. She's letting herself be seen, unfinished. This is also where she becomes sensitive to your reactions, not in a fragile way, but in an observant way. She watches your face when she speaks. She notices your tone. She feels whether you're present or just waiting to respond. Not because she needs approval, but because she's measuring emotional safety. If she senses judgment, she retreats internally, not dramatically, quietly, permanently. But if she senses acceptance without passivity, curiosity without intrusion, strength without dominance, her openness deepens. Another sign within this sign is her willingness to apologize sincerely, not defensively, not strategically, but cleanly. A woman who wants to give herself doesn't protect her ego at the cost of the connection. She values repair over pride. That's emotional investment at a high level. Here's the truth most men never hear. Women don't give themselves to men who feel intense. They give themselves to men who feel steady. Steadiness allows her to explore herself without fear of losing you, without fear of being punished for honesty, without fear of emotional chaos. If you can remain grounded while she reveals uncertainty, if you don't rush her clarity or demand resolution, if you stay present without losing yourself, you become the place she feels safe landing. And once a woman finds a place where she can land emotionally without armor, she doesn't just visit, she stays. The sixth hidden sign is the most powerful and the most misunderstood. She begins to imagine you in her future without needing certainty from you. This doesn't show up as pressure, it shows up as inclusion. She talks in possibilities instead of promises. She references future moments casually, not to lock you in, but because her mind naturally places you there. A comment about a trip she'd like to take someday. A situation where she says, "You'd be good at this," or "You'd understand." She isn't asking where things are going. She's already walking there emotionally. When a woman wants to give herself to you, she doesn't demand guarantees. She watches your consistency. She observes how you handle time, stress, boundaries, and uncertainty. And when she sees that you remain grounded, not performative, not reactive, her nervous system makes a decision before her logic does. She feels settled with you. Another layer of this sign is how she reacts to other men around you, not with jealousy, but with neutrality. She doesn't compete. She doesn't compare. She doesn't test you with triangulation. Why? Because when a woman internally chooses a man, other options lose emotional relevance. They become noise. This is where men often sabotage everything by seeking reassurance. They ask questions they don't need answers to. They look for proof instead of presence. They try to secure verbally what's already forming emotionally. And the moment you chase certainty, you introduce pressure. A woman gives herself to a man who allows the bond to breathe, who doesn't interrogate the connection, who doesn't rush labels to calm his anxiety. Here's something few men understand. Certainty is masculine. Safety is feminine. When you embody certainty in yourself, not in the relationship, she relaxes into safety with you. Another unmistakable sign is how she handles distance. If she wants to give herself to you, distance doesn't trigger panic or games. She doesn't punish you for space. She doesn't withdraw affection to regain control. She remains emotionally consistent even when you're not constantly present. Why? Because she trusts the bond. She trusts that you're not disappearing. She trusts that connection doesn't need constant maintenance to survive. That trust only forms when a woman feels emotionally held rather than emotionally chased. Pay attention to this. She becomes receptive instead of guarded. Compliments land deeper. Touch feels softer. Eye contact lingers longer. Her body language opens instead of tightens. She doesn't brace herself around you. she melts. And melting is surrender without submission. The final truth is this: a woman doesn't give herself to a man because he convinced her. She gives herself because she felt safe doing so. Safe to be slow, safe to be honest, safe to be uncertain, safe to be deeply herself. And that safety is not created by words. It's created by your emotional posture, by how you handle silence, by how you respond to vulnerability, by how little you need her to fill your emptiness. Men who understand this don't chase women. They become the place women move toward. Now here's the question I want you to sit with and answer honestly in the comments. Which one of these signs have you felt before but didn't recognize until now? If this resonated with you, like the video, subscribe for more truths most men were never taught, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it before he makes the same mistakes again.